All right. So good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. This is the OLM upstream meeting for the issue triad. And today is February the 3rd. And let's get the party started. Just give me a second to set screen. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes, I can see.
Okay, great. So for today agenda, so to speak, I would like to typically we would go through the issues on the operator registry and operator lifecycle manager repo. So basically to try out the new issue and closing out the old issue if possible. So that would be the typical process that we're doing here. For today, I would like to start with the operator registry first, and if we still have time, we're going to go over to the OM side. And particularly today, I would love to focus about the milestone, the 1.20, basically the next release for the operator registry, given the fact that we haven't have a minor release for registry for a while. Now, I think the 1.19 will release in October. So it's almost 5 months now. So we would love to having another release for the operator registry. So we would like to start with some milestone discussion first to see if we can go over the current issue on the milestone and see if anything we would love to tackle and get it in for 120. And if something that we no longer need it, or we can defer that to a later release, we should remove them from the milestone. So that's what we love started today. All right, then. Let's get started with the first issue on the list for milestone 120. So the complaint is can find an operator on the operator hub after creating catalog using the FPC, the file-based catalog. And I think this is because of the bundle blob. I think this is typically the blob that's using for the console pretty much. And I think Joe just said here this have been fixed already. And actually, when you open the busy, I would recommend you to close the issue if you can tag it in. Okay, so this issue is done. So I want to close it. All right then. Let's move on to the next one. So this issue, the catalog build with the new builder image failed to deploy the bundle. It seems to having problem with parsing, basically parsing the bundle object. I think we did having a conversation about this, the fact that we're no longer using this image anymore, the upstream OPM builder, because we having a different image for that now. I think this is side to me, but I actually haven't taken a look into this yet. I don't think, and I'm actually not sure if I actually assigned correctly to me or not. In fact, this person said that they're using older version of PM for compatibility issue. Not sure what kind of compatibility issue they're talking about.
I'm guessing this is probably a schema problem, right? Like the version of OPM they're using is really old, and they're trying to use a base image that has a much newer database in it, and it's failing for one reason or another because they need to run migrations on the DB.
Yeah, that's highly possible here. I'm just trying to recall in my head what particularly problem we cannot parse and bundle back is a little bit strange. The missing property is kind of a common thing, but the cannot parse bundle path is
I
interesting.
just remember it was like, yeah. I mean, look at this build is from 2020, right? This is a very old version of OPM. I'm wondering if this is like before we even had a separate field in the database for bundle path directly, or
that's
something
true.
like that. Like, I don't know. I think this is, I guess what I'm saying is like, I don't think this is a reasonable thing for us to try to solve. I think that what they need to do is either hard code their base image to reference a specific older SHA of the OPM base layer, or build their own image for it, or just update OPM. I don't think we should be like trying to like dive into like what the specific details of like why there's an incompatibility here are. I think that's kind of a waste of time.
Yeah, so I would love to remove this from the my store because this doesn't seem like something we would love to do. Have anything to do with the upcoming release? I don't think, given the fact Kevin just point out this is really on here, and I don't think this is only enough to not supporting the new format that we have, but in terms of like bundle stuff, because the bundle path should be at since we introduced the bundle image format, this should be after that. But I'm curious, what is it?
Right, like they even have a workaround, right? They literally say, oh, if we use this older version of the base image, then it works. Like, yeah, because there's probably some schema incompatibility.
Yeah.
I don't think we should support that.
Yeah,
like I would respond by explaining that and then closing this. I don't think we need to do anything else.
Yeah, that's a good. I will explain this later, given it's assigned to me anyway, and probably need to remember to do this. Probably should create a tab here to make sure I can take a look at it. I don't want to just spending time typing it in. When we don't have a lot of time. Let's move on to the next issue here. If present locally, this is interesting. We are actually hold on, this one was somehow assigned to me. It's interesting. In terms of like pulling the images and stuff like that, OM is not really the one doing the pulling. So I'm not entirely sure.
Well, what they're saying is like they want to like use local cache, like to like if the image has already been pulled, just continue using it. The problem with that is we could go do that for like Docker, right? But it won't be the same if you're using the container D implementation or if you're using the Podman, right? So
correct.
And then there's even version skew between these things. I looked at this like a long time ago. I don't know that it's really super easy for us to maintain. I guess like in a world where all the newer tooling that doesn't use like OPM index add and all of that stuff just uses containerd, and we don't support any of like the native CLI tools. Maybe we could look into this again.
Yeah, I mean, this is not the first time that people talking about, oh, I don't want to pulling images at all. I want to using the image that available locally, on even in the concept locally. It's not even an image that have been pushed anywhere yet, for that matter. It's literally just a local representation of whatever tooling that they're using for container image. Like, because as you already know that Podman and Docker locally, they may using different kind of, storage for their particular formatting for their particular images. So it's OM is not going to be able, OPM for that matter. We are not able to tell what that is and how to using it depending on the tooling. Like Kevin just said it, like Podman you do it differently and Docker may do it differently. And the concept of locally is a little bit kind of ambiguous in the sense that locally meaning what exactly? Is that the image that available to be pushing, or it's like a blob or something? So I'm not sure it's something we want to do because it's actually a feature request.
Yeah, I think it's from a UX point of view, it's sort of it does make sense. I was frustrated by this in the past as well. But I can see the argument that basically, since we support different runtimes, we can't. Are you saying that we can't like deterministically know what the image is locally because we support different tools?
That's true, because from index perspective, the only thing we know is basically an image tag, right? Essentially image digest or whatever that is. So that is the input that we have. And then from that, you basically have to use some sort of tooling locally to determining, oh, this is the image built by Docker or Podman or whatever tooling that we possibly have. And then we have to pick it up, find a way to unpack it some way, so that you need, like, you probably like for registry to do it, they need to vendor more stuff in order to find that thing out, depending on the tooling that they may have, like all the way Dan just said it, like the runtime they have. So we basically have to support everything in order to tell what that is. So I'm not sure, because I'm not sure if that is the thing that we want to do, because when everything gets pushed to a registry, it needs to be a I say that, a common type of thing on registry, because most of the time we are supposed to some sort of like the OCI compliant registry stuff, so we actually know what it is, so you have a common format that you can deal with. But locally it can be anything.
Okay, yeah, fair enough. So maybe this is just simply like so we can say that it's just too complex to support locally in the way we want, essentially.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually having 7 thumbs up, believe it or not. So this seems to be a thing that I'm not sure if older people belong to the same group or same team perhaps, but I can see the valid reason behind this. But the thing, this is something that, interesting enough, is a really good support statement for the FPC. You see what I'm saying here? The file-based catalog, which is just a JSON blob or YAML blob. Then you can do whatever you're doing with it, because a JSON blob that's well known, so they don't have to actually dealing with the images specifically. So this is actually something can be solved with that, so to speak. Go ahead, Kevin.
I mean, I think there are still going to be use cases where somebody needs to take the content from an individual bundle image and then do something with it. But yeah, I agree. I'm up for like the index pull. You're right. Like they should just be able to just like git pull that JSON directly and just modify it and then have it in the local environment.
Yeah, I do read you say that if for the bundle content extraction, then there's no other way, like need to get the bundle particularly and get the info out of it. But from the index side, we should be able to do that much easier without using the image itself. So yeah, so anyway, it seems like the consistency, even if we may or may not do this, I don't think this is gonna be on 120 for sure for the milestone reason. Hold on. Here we go. And this is the feature request anyway, so I will remove that from the milestone for now, and then we will potentially discuss further to see. I can typing something in here to discuss, keep open the conversation a little bit, and go from there. So I think that's something I can do. Need to open a tab, make sure I don't forget this. Okay, let's move on to the next issue. Oh, so this is about OPM diff, skipping dependency at the package level. And I thought this had been fixed already. Oh, so the request here is the skip dependency flag here is basically do it for the entire process, meaning that it will basically skip dependency when you're using the OPM diff for the entire index pretty much. So it basically, he said it's basically a global setting in a way that it's like do it all. And he requests to be a bit more rendered, a bit more focused in the sense that they want to skip dependency for some package, but not for the other. And this is an interesting request and should be helping with the OC mirror process, which is using OPM diff in the background. This, do you think this is a good thing to have from my perspective, that who working with OC mirror is actually can be pretty handy actually? Go ahead, Kevin.
So I'm trying to collect my thoughts. I'm skeptical because it feels like kind of a weird thing to ask for. Like on the surface level, I think it makes it makes sense. Like, hey, I want more granularity in the way that I can specify like what stuff I do and don't want to be diffed. But the whole point of OPM diff, right, is to get the subsets of specific packages.
Correct.
This feels like like we're falling through the looking glass. Like this is like we're going through the looking glass. Like we're just gonna keep getting questions for more and more and more complexity here. That like this example I think is kind of weird because it feels like diff, either you want all the dependencies or you don't want any dependencies because you're just trying to mirror one specific package. It feels weird to me to say I don't want any dependencies for this thing but not this thing because I don't care about actually installing this dependency or not, or upgrading this dependency or not. That like if you really want that level of granularity, I kind of think the answer is like just modify the FBC yourself. That should be simple enough. You should be able to just like extract packages out of it or whatever. I'm really skeptical of us adding like lots of bits and bobs and knobs onto tooling that does this kind of thing.
Yeah, I do agree with you that as soon as we open the door for more control over what you want and what not, then I feel at that point it's not really a tooling problem anymore, in the sense that because you really want something more particular for your use case, then you should do it yourself, because the concept behind OPM diff is using FPC file by catalog, which is entirely modifiable at your will, right? And there's no reason for you to depending on type of a tooling that doesn't no longer fit to your use case anymore. You don't need that tooling if you don't want to.
The part of the reason why I'm kind of voicing this a little bit is like I've been hearing rumblings from different folks. Like I talked to some people who were looking to try to use well, first of all, they wanted us to make OPM diff get out of alpha. And then they wanted to use OPM diff to imperatively describe or have a way of like paring down a catalog in really specific ways, which is like, it's not really the purpose of the tool. And I'm concerned about this request kind of being, yeah, because they're using it for OC mirror. Like they want to be able to do other things to the catalog that have nothing to do with the specifics of OPM diff, which was literally just a way for us to say, hey, if you want to have the subset of stuff that that needs to get mirrored on a successive try, then here's that specific subset of stuff. I'm skeptical of anything that is anything more than that, like really specific use case.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. That the tooling is just a way for you to do something. It doesn't necessarily mean to be the only way for you to do the same thing. So I feel like FPC itself is entirely be able to handle this if you. And the thing is, one of the things I feel I want to point out here the fact that if you're having that intimate knowledge of what dependency you want and you don't want, I don't think you should relying on the generic tooling anyway, because that detailed information, meaning that you should control that yourself. Because I feel your opinions on how to do certain things should not be a part of a generic tooling. That is a little bit too much information, so to speak, there. So yeah, I remove that from my store because it's something we will not do that for 1.20, and I will comment on that later on to make sure that this is come across. Hold on, which one? Okay, yes, I just want to open the tab, and I just want to refresh this a little bit to make sure we get clear on that. Next issue, this is probably also another OPM div question and feature actually. Content. Okay, so this is a little bit information that is not entirely presented on the image on the subscription. Here is, I think it's depend. This is related to OC mirror a little bit. In a way that the way the mirror process is that you basically giving a starting version, and then it's basically gonna mirroring everything up to the latest version, so to speak, by using certain, update wrap information and so on. And they're basically going to be having multiple version if you're having a starting and the ending, basically the latest, so it can be multiple version in between, so to speak. And I think what Eric is saying here is instead of having no kind of like starting point and ending point and wrap everything in between, they want something a bit more specific, meaning that they're just choosing a version only, and then somehow OPM div able to like finding the update wrap connection between that particular version and the current version, and able to load find the diff for that. So basically that what I think that's the gist of this feature, I think.
So I'm gonna +1. I think this makes sense as a concept, but I don't think it needs to end up in 120. So
I agree. Timing wise, it's not gonna be done on time. Let me see this comment from Daniel real quick to see if he introduce anything more. All right then. I want to clear Eric from this. But it was. Yeah, so I think I will move this feature request into the next milestone. I think I need to create a new milestone for this. But this seems like something certainly can be helpful here. So something we would love to give it a try and go from there. But I will remove from the current milestone. We'll add it to the next milestone. So that's fine. All right, let's move on. Oh, did I? Oh, we're doing it. Next issue. This is another OPM div issue, I think. So this seems to be a channel problem. So this is the question about channel. So Eric is asking if empty channel is never allowed. I mean, from the schematic perspective, you can have empty channel. That should not be a problem obviously when you select a channel in general, it's nothing going to happen because there's nothing to install, nothing available. And I thought recently there's a merge PR to fix the problem that we're going to clean up empty channel when we're doing the OPM diff. Actually, let's see if I can dig that commit up. I'm pretty sure. I think Jennifer Powell is the one fixing it. Can you share her name? Oh my God, she couldn't find it. I think yes. So I think this is the one. It's basically pruning empty channel, even though it's only in head only mode though. I'm sure we should do it for everything, but it's related to what the issue is. So I think this maybe have been resolved already. If Joe is in this meeting, he's not. I think this may have been resolved already. Actually, Jennifer did create issue for this, so this seems to be only head only channel. It's not apply for everything.
I think there's ambiguity. Like I think this. I'm not super familiar with the edge case here. I would have to probably like try to test it, but I think what this is saying is that there's some ambiguity in terms of like what the default channel is, right? Like basically this is saying when you do a prune or like when you do a diff and then all the stuff in the old default channel doesn't exist anymore, that he's saying like we should just have a selection mechanism for setting a new default channel. And I don't know if that's the right thing. I wonder if the right thing is to like look at the yeah, I don't know. This feels like a weird like a kind of a funky edge case. Like it feels like maybe we even should error out here. So I don't know that we excuse me. I don't know that we want to support modifying the default channel heuristically, but if you just want everything to just work and not have to worry about it, then I can see why you would expect that behavior.
Yeah, so I can see here's the fact that when the current default channel is I'm sorry, my God, I'm stumbling on my word. The default channel is no longer there, then we need a new default channel because default channel is basically a requirement. But at the same time, like if you're having multiple channel, then which one's supposed to be the next default channel? That is not really deterministic, because the concept default channel should belong to the person who actually controlling this operator, so to speak, that they know the intention behind and want this particular channel to be a default one. Like from the OPM diff perspective, it cannot know this. So I do agree with Kevin on the concept of ARL.
Yeah, that's kind of like well, maybe the solution here is for like package maintainers to, in a given catalog, make sure that like whatever the default channel is something that can reasonably be pruned. And if it's not something that can reasonably be pruned, then this is probably an operation that the user doesn't want to do or doesn't realize that what they're doing may be the wrong thing. Or if they still want to do it anyway, maybe have an opt-in where you set it manually, but like that kind of thing. But I think just assuming the ambiguity is ambiguous and that we don't care is probably the wrong option. I don't know.
Yeah, I agree with you on that end. So I'm removed it from the maestro because this clearly needs a bit further discussion here. I was probably having a comment on this about the fact that default channel is an opinion belong to the package manager, not something OPM can OPM diff having authority to control that. That's basically a wrong responsibility and control there. So we need to find a way to properly, propagate the information somewhere so it can be resolve in a different way, so to speak. Okay, so I think that sounds good, and I will comment on that on the list of things to do. All right, then moving on next. So this is about deprecated substitute for field in the CSV. I actually try to. So Joe was the one get assigned for this. You know, he's not here in the meeting. It's an annotation on the CSV, and I think it's specifically using for the substitute for command on OPM. And so it's alpha feature only. So do we need to deprecate it? Or how are we supposed to get rid of the alpha thing then?
We always built substitutes for as like, this is an alpha thing, use it at your own risk. But I also think there's probably enough users that are interacting with it that we need to have some way to tell them that that's what we have to do. But I'm not totally convinced I know the right way to do that. We'll probably, I don't know, this seems like something that's reasonable. I don't think it needs to block 1.20, and I think we should probably like start a discussion about it on Slack.
Yeah, I will remind Joe a little bit about this, see if he having any further update on this issue. Sure, that sounds good. Let's move on from this, because this is just about a few on the CSV that we want to get rid of one way or other or not. And I don't think there's need to a little bit further discussion on that end. Oh crap. Come on, let's move this thing away. All right, then we come down to the last few. So I'm open a new tab for that. Anyway, oh, so this is a request from Ben to deprecate it, the require API and provide API field on the gRPC bundle message, essentially, because we're no longer using it anymore. This belongs to the own resolver. The new resolver, everything is property. So the any cap like, you know, provide API or require API will be sent at the property on the in the property field on the gRPC message for the bundle. So those two, so the property field basically doing everything now. The require API and the provide API field are no longer needed for many release now. So at some point we probably should be clean that up. And I think we having some discussion in the background about some you know, tech dev cleanup from the gRPC perspective. So I think this is a good segue to that. And we may want to discuss to see when we want to do that and so on. But I don't think that's going to be done in 1.20. Do you agree?
Yeah, that seems reasonable.
Yep. Yeah, so I will put a comment here just to say that this is something we would love to do, and we'll probably get it done in the next few release. Not sure if it's going to be the next one or not, but certainly it can be done as long as we agree on the deprecation process, because this is just something we can clean up quite easily on the code base on registry. All right, let's move on to the next one. Did I create a tab for that already? The comment on that. All right, next issue. This is actually a side and Kita. So this is about Partman tooling, excuse me, with the index. And I think this is a similar story about the fact that we actually having option to use some other tooling. Now the tooling does not place nice with us. And Kita, did you have any follow-up on this? Are you in the meeting? You are.
Yeah, wait, this was the issue where Podman was failing because it was trying to read the container name that it was creating from the standard out, but it was also printing out errors to standard out at the same time. So it was just splitting the two. And I think this should be fixed if that PR made it in.
Do we attach a PR? Oh, this is a PR you say?
Yeah.
Okay, then this is still pending
Right.
apparently.
Yeah, I'll take a look at that again. Probably needs rebasing by now. Wait, no, it just needs
Actually,
an approve.
there's no conflict. Actually, it's all good. This is a matter of approval.
Yeah.
Do we still want to get it in? I think we can because it's already been looked to me. It's a matter of
I
approval.
think with the current version of Portman, this might not be an issue any longer, but I'm not entirely sure yet.
All right. Why don't you take a look again, Ankita, and let me know by commenting on the issue to see if it's been resolved on a new Portman already or that PR needed, and we can merge it. If we want to merge it, it should make it in 120. If it's not for some reason, then we can remove it from 120. But it seems like such a simple fix one way or the other. So just let me know and comment on this issue would you please? So
yeah,
that would be nice. Thank you. All right then. Let's move on to the next issue. This is from team. So this is essentially about the OPM index remove and a set of them, and some of them. Anyway, there's a PR for that. To basically warning if removing some of the provided packages is don't exist, and this have been co-reviewed already. Just matter of look good to me and approve. It seems like it's simple enough fix, should not be a big problem, I don't think. So we can just look good to me, approve it, and send it on its way. Any objection against that?
No, it sounds good.
All right then. Okay, so let's just get the PR merge. So we actually having two PR here. So it's basically there are two PR pending for two different issues here, and I think that's the only thing left over for the 120. Hopefully can get it done by the end of the week. Then we should be able to release a new version of registry soon on that matter. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
All right then. Okay, wonderful. So I think that should be enough stuff for registry for today. Let's just swing over to website real quick to see if we can discuss some issue there, perhaps see if anything new to talk about. I just open it, I can see a lot story here apparently. I think they basically just some of the stories, some of the improvement that I think the OLM team want to do, and I think pair open order the story and issue here for that. Do we feel like we want to go through that today, Kevin? Because I don't think we have enough time to go through all of them, unfortunately.
Yeah, we probably don't. But I mean, like, there's a couple of other things on here that are not part of those. So maybe we want to focus on those instead.
Yeah, sure. That's a good. So ignoring on the story on the top, probably going to be discussed in another day when we have enough time to go over all of them. For the remaining 10-15 minutes, I don't think will be enough. So there are a few issues here. Is testing related. I think this is the one testing that I will ignore for now. I think this is the one that an actual issue that we'll have to take a look. If an operator I'm a little bit. So that's correct. The deployment of your operator is actually having owner references to the CSV, meaning the CSV actually owning the deployment. So that when you delete the CSV, the deployment will get TC as well, get it collected as well. But the controller attribute, does that mean something differently? So the CSV doesn't actually controlling the deployment, so to speak, but I'm not sure if the controller attribute be true. Does that actually changing something in terms of like owner references? Do anyone know about this? I may not know about the controller attribute in detail, so I'm missing something here. Anyone?
I'm not sure that this actually has any runtime implications, but
Yeah, that's what I'm
not
saying.
sure.
I'm not entirely sure. So I was like, does that matter? Even though, you know, if that attribute actually means something, then we probably should follow the correct usage of it. One way or the other, but I'm just curious, does that, because this description doesn't actually telling me if this particular attribute causing any problem. I guess this something needs to be looked further on the cube documentation to see the control
Okay, here we
attribute
go.
that
Adoption. The controller field prevents fighting over resources which are to be adopted. However, if there's a pod which matches the label selector, to prevent two replicas that's fighting over the same pod, the latter is given a unique controller by setting the controller to true.
okay. So this is saying that somehow if there's two things owning the same resource, then one of them should be the controller, meaning the main one. So
Basically, this is saying this is saying you can set controller to true if the owner reference is to the reference of the thing that's also the controller that created the resource.
then
And that changes behavior. It does change behavior. It changes behavior in terms of how the replica set rolls out pods.
yeah, so in that case, then the fault is correct then, because CSV, even though it's the owner of the deployment, but it's not actually the one create the deployment, so to speak. That's the replica set, the one controlling it.
Right.
So this is accurate then. This is the correct use then for this particular use case. I mean, for this particular relationship between CSV and deployment.
I guess like maybe we should ask why they want this to be set then, because I agree. I don't know that it makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I would. Yeah, I will comment on this. Let's see. All right, I think, actually misspelled the word attribute. All right, so that's a good. Let's see what the author can provide us a bit further on what exactly the intention behind this, and we can discuss on and see if what we're doing here on OLM side is actually accurate. All right. So I'm gonna just visit this is another end-to-end test. I'm gonna skip that. Skip that. Now this is the feature request here. Actually, hold on. This is feature request associated with the testing, so I'm going to skip it for now. And go for another feature request. So this has been quite a conversation here. Alex, you are here. So this is about the webhook, admission webhook and the certification management. Any thought, comment?
Yeah, so lots of thoughts here. We've definitely thought about doing this, and we think it's the way we should go. We simply haven't had the opportunity to fully flesh it out or even write a proposal. I think there are some obvious changes that we need to make, right? If we were to pursue this opportunity, namely, we would need to introduce documentation that tells other operators how to take advantage of, the a different oh, sorry, this is slightly different. This is about our approach to admission webhooks. Sorry. I thought this was about using a different one second, I'm just reading about this. Okay, yeah, so this is regarding the certificate authority management.
Correct.
So is this really asking, this is asking about two things really. One, OLM's general approach to how we handle admission webhooks and how we manage certificate management, right?
Correct.
Okay, so this is a two-part problem, and I was addressing the second part initially. So let's start there. In regards to how OLM manages certificates, that's baked into OLM today. If you include a webhook in the operator bundle, OLM will generate, if you define it in the CSV, OLM will generate a self-signed certificate, deploy your operator and your webhook using that certificate. And this obviously isn't ideal for a lot of customers who want to use other tools such as Cert Manager, especially when they don't want to use self-signed certificates, or they have to meet certain standards on their cluster with certificates. There is currently no enhancement proposal that exists that really outlines how we could transfer to that, and I think that's something that we would need to provide in order to do this. In that vein, I'm probably the most well equipped to start looking into that and writing it, and that's in that regard, it's more of a enhancement request, right? In terms of actually implementing it, I don't know when we'd get around to that, especially with the potential idea of introducing new APIs. Does it make sense to update the OLM controller to support different certs, or should we move towards handling that in the new APIs? That should probably be fleshed out in that enhancement, right? So that's part one of this. I think trying to get that decided on and delivered, it's probably like a couple weeks of discussion, right?
Yes.
I'm happy to take that on at some point. So assign this to me. I don't know when we want to label it in terms of milestone. What's that?
No, go ahead. Finish your thought.
Okay, so that was the second issue that I wanted to address first. There is also I think where I got slipped up in the beginning of this is that first bit where can the OLM operator be more relaxed about admission controllers? If you're taking that without and let other components manage them, and you're focusing, can OLM be more relaxed? OLM does have a series of safeguards with basically webhooks specifically, where we're very opinionated about what you are allowed to do with a webhook. And that's simply because webhooks have the ability to break a lot of stuff if done incorrectly. In fact, even a webhook that doesn't work can break garbage collection on your cluster. So it's a pretty heavy-handed tool that, if used incorrectly, can cause a lot of issues. So I believe we outline what you are and are not allowed to do in the documents and what you can do. I think realistically, we would need specific examples of where they want us to relax a little bit in terms of some of the stuff that we dictate currently regarding webhooks. But the more I read this issue, the more I think they're just asking that we support other, like a way for other components to manage the certificates. And if that's all they want, that's the first route I kind of mentioned.
Yes, absolutely. I think we're just having a kind of discussion here for the feature request here. Obviously, at the feature and with the complexity that involving admission webhook here, it's gonna be a little bit more than just some simple PL. As you said, it is need a proper enhancement, and these are discussion to see how this can be resolved. Excuse me. One on the webhook side and one on the certification management side, which is related, but can be addressed in separately, so to speak there. So I'm assigned to you for now, and I think the first step would be commenting on what you just said, essentially, probably explain a little bit further, and having some pointer here and there or documentation if needed to basically discuss and get the conversation going. And of course, we will need enhancement at some point, and we'll go from there. But at that point, just basically to make sure your thought, the one that you just mentioned here, to be presented here, so the one that requested can see your logic and thought and idea behind all of this. So does that sound good?
Yeah, no, that sounds good. And the more I read this, the more it seems like I fixated too much OLM being relaxed about admission controllers. And all this ticket seems to be asking is just, hey, give me a way so something else can manage certificates. And if that's what they're doing, I think it's pretty clear what we need to do. We need to write the enhancement, decide if that's going to be added to the OLM controller or if it's going to be handled with the new APIs, and then basically flush it out well enough so someone can do the work. So I think that makes sense. And it is something we really need to do, in my opinion.
Sound good. Yeah. So please comment on this, and then we can go from there. All right. Thank you, Alex. All right. I think we at the time is 1 minute away, so I don't think we have time for go another issue. But I think we should close it out for today. So I would like to thank you everyone for joining, and I will see you next week. Have a great day. Bye for now.